Captain Ryland stood on the observation deck of the starship Aurora, staring at the swirling colors of the distant nebula. The stars shone like scattered diamonds, and the soft hum of the ship's engines filled the room. For years, humanity had reached into the stars, exploring strange worlds, meeting unknown species and testing the limits of courage. But nothing had prepared him for what was about to happen. A sudden alert flashed across the screen. A small, irregular signal coming from a nearby planet in the glimmering expanse. Ryland's curiosity sparked. "Helm, set a course for the signal. I want to see what's down there," he commanded. The ship shook slightly as it dropped out of warp near the planet's orbit. Blue oceans shimmered under pink clouds and green. Land masses spread like patches on a quilt. The signal seemed to be coming from a tiny island at the edge of a vast forest. Ryland suited up and prepared the shuttle. He had always been fascinated by first contacts, the moments when humanity reached out and connected with the unknown. Today, he hoped for discovery. The shuttle glided through the thick, colorful atmosphere. Birds, if they could be called that, darted past, their wings leaving trails of sparkling dust. Trees stretched higher than the tallest skyscrapers on Earth, their leaves glowing faintly. The forest was alive with sounds, and the air smelled sweet and fresh. Finally, the shuttle landed on a soft grassy field near the source of the signal. Ryland stepped out carefully, scanning for signs of life. That's when he saw her, a tiny figure, no taller than his knee, standing behind a cluster of luminous flowers. She had large, sparkling eyes and a tiny frame, with shimmering hair that changed color as she moved. She looked at him with curiosity and a hint of mischief. Ryland froze for a moment. He had read about tiny alien species, but he had never imagined meeting one in person. "Hello," Ryland said gently, not wanting to scare her. "I'm Captain Ryland. I mean no harm." The tiny alien girl tilted her head. A small musical laugh escaped her lips. She held out a tiny hand, and from it appeared a glowing orb of light. The orb floated between them, pulsing softly. Ryland realized that this was her way of communicating, through light and sound. He smiled. "I think you're trying to talk to me." Slowly, he reached out, and the orb floated closer. Suddenly, the girl darted forward faster than he expected and touched his hand with hers. The orb expanded, surrounding them both in a warm glow. Images flashed in Ryland's mind. Her home, the forests, the crystal rivers, and her people. She was alone. She had been separated from her family during a great storm that struck her island. Ryland knelt down. "Don't worry, I'll help you." The girl's eyes widened and she laughed again, a sound like bells ringing in the wind. Over the next hour, Ryland learned more about her. She didn't have a name that humans could pronounce easily, so he decided to call her Luma, after the glowing light she produced. Luma explored cautiously, touching the shuttle and the equipment with wonder. Every movement made the lights on, her body shimmer in new patterns, almost like she was smiling. Ryland realized that Luma was not just a tiny alien. She was incredibly intelligent. She studied his tools, touched the holographic displays, and seemed fascinated by Earth objects he had brought along. At one point, she reached out to a small container of milk that Ryland had for his own nutrition. She sniffed it curiously, then giggled, her laughter echoing like soft chimes. Ryland poured a tiny drop into a cup and held it out. Luma drank carefully, and then she danced in circles, clearly delighted. Hours passed, and Ryland and Luma explored the forest near the landing site. The forest was full of wonders. Trees with leaves that sang when the wind passed, flowers that opened and closed with patterns like a clock, and streams where the water sparkled like liquid starlight. Ryland took notes and recorded everything, but he couldn't take his eyes off Luma, who seemed to shine brighter with every new discovery. As the evening fell, the sky turned deep violet and 2 moons rose above the horizon. Luma pointed to the moons, then to herself, and finally to Ryland. He realized she wanted to show him something. Following her tiny footsteps, he discovered a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, covered in crystalline symbols that pulsed with light. "This is your home?" Rylan asked, astonished. Luma nodded vigorously. She ran to a crystal in the wall and pressed it with both hands. The symbols on the walls lit up brightly, and images appeared showing her family searching for her. Rylan understood. They had been looking for her, and now, maybe, they could be reunited. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the cave. The symbols began to shift, forming patterns that seemed almost like a map. Luma looked at Rylan and nodded, as if to say, "We must follow this." Rylan smiled, feeling the thrill of adventure. This was exactly why humans explored the stars, for moments like this where discovery and connection came together. Night fell over the island, but the glow from the cave lit their path. Rylan and Luma set up a small temporary camp nearby. He shared some of his rations, and she shared a light that warmed them both. Though they could not speak the same language, they understood each other perfectly. Luma's laughter, her gestures, and the light she produced spoke volumes. Before sleeping, Rylan looked up at the stars. Humanity had always reached for the skies, but tonight, he realized that the universe was not just about exploration. It was about friendship, trust, and the joy of discovering life in its most unexpected forms. Luma curled up near him, tiny, but bright, like a living star. Rylan smiled, feeling a mix of awe and responsibility. Tomorrow they would follow the map in the cave. Tomorrow they would begin the journey to reunite Luma with her family. But tonight, there was peace, and the universe felt full of wonder. As he drifted off to sleep, Rylan thought about how strange and beautiful life could be. A tiny alien girl had taught him more in a few hours than many humans could learn in a lifetime. And somewhere in the vastness of space he knew adventure awaited. The stars outside seemed to twinkle with approval, as if encouraging him to embrace the journey ahead. And somewhere deep in the forest, Luma's laughter echoed softly, blending with the music of the planet, promising that this was only the beginning of an extraordinary friendship. The morning sun rose slowly over the glowing forest, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Captain Rylan stirred in his small camp, careful not to wake Luma, who was already awake, her tiny form shimmering faintly in the early light. She hopped onto his shoulder, giggling, and pointed toward the cave where the crystal map awaited. Rylan smiled and packed their supplies. He had rations, water, and a few tools to help him navigate the unknown terrain. Luma, with her tiny glowing hands, bounced with excitement, clearly ready for the adventure ahead. Today they would follow the crystal map and discover more about her world, and maybe find her family. The cave glowed softly as they entered. The crystal map pulsed with light, showing pathways through the forest and marking points where special energy crystals were located. Rylan studied it carefully. "These crystals must be part of your people's network," he said. "They could guide us to your family." Luma reached out and touched one of the points on the map. A small holographic projection appeared, showing a river of sparkling water winding through the forest. Rylan understood. They needed to follow the river. They stepped out of the cave and into the forest. The trees towered high above, their leaves reflecting the sunlight in shimmering patterns. Strange creatures flitted between the branches. Some looked like birds, others like glowing insects, but none approached them aggressively. Luma's laughter and the soft hum of her light seemed to calm the forest creatures, as if she belonged there. The river appeared after a short walk. It glowed faintly, the water moving with an almost magical rhythm. Rylan knelt by its edge to examine it. "This is amazing," he said softly. "Everything here seems alive in ways we've never seen on Earth." Luma clapped her tiny hands and pointed downstream. She ran ahead, her light leading the way, and Rylan followed carefully. The forest seemed denser here, the trees closer together, their trunks covered in sparkling moss. Strange flowers opened as they passed, their petals reflecting the colors of the sun. Suddenly, the ground shook. Rylan stumbled, grabbing a tree for support. Luma froze and shivered, her light flickering rapidly. From the shadows between the trees, a group of creatures appeared, tall, with long limbs and skin that seemed almost metallic. Their eyes glowed softly, and they moved with surprising speed. Rylan raised his hands. "We mean no harm," he called, out. The creatures paused, studying them. Then one stepped forward, its eyes fixed on Luma. Rylan realized they were guardians of the forest, and Luma's presence had triggered their curiosity. Luma stepped forward bravely. Her tiny light flared, and the creatures backed away slightly. She moved toward them, making soft, melodic sounds. The creatures responded, their eyes flickering in time with her light. Rylan watched in awe. Even in the face of potential danger, Luma's intelligence and courage shone through. After a tense moment, the creatures turned and disappeared into the forest. Luma giggled softly, her light dimming to a calm glow. Rylan shook his head in wonder. "You really can communicate with anything here," he said. They continued following the river. The forest began to change. The trees became taller, and the air grew cooler. Strange mist drifted along the ground in glowing pall. The morning sun filtered through the crystal ruins, casting rainbow-colored reflections on the ground. Captain Rylan and Luma awoke near the hidden chamber, their excitement from yesterday still lingering. Luma's light flickered softly as she bounced around, eager to continue exploring. Rylan stretched and checked their supplies. "We've come far," he said, "but the map shows the journey isn't over. There's more to discover in this city." Luma chirped in agreement, her small glowing form radiating curiosity and energy. Together, they entered the heart of the ruins. The towering crystal structures seemed almost alive, humming with a quiet energy that resonated through the air. Luma darted ahead, her tiny hands touching walls, floors, and pillars. Each time she made contact, the crystals pulsed, revealing faint, glowing symbols. Rylan followed, carefully recording the patterns. "These symbols must tell a story," he said. "Maybe they hold clues to the history of your people." Luma giggled and produced a soft glow, illuminating a large mural on the wall. It depicted small beings, much like Luma, moving through the forest, building crystal structures and harnessing energy from glowing crystals scattered across the planet. "This is incredible," Rylan whispered. "Your people were not only intelligent, they were deeply connected to this world." Luma's light shimmered brightly, almost as if she agreed. As they moved deeper into the ruins, the floor beneath them began to shift slightly. A soft vibration ran through the ground, and Rylan instinctively held Luma close. "Stay close," he murmured. Ahead, they discovered a large chamber filled with floating crystals. They hovered in midair, spinning slowly, casting reflections that danced across the walls. Luma approached the nearest crystal and touched it. The crystal responded, projecting a holographic map of the entire region. Points of light marked locations throughout the planet. Some were energy sources, others were hidden settlements. One point pulsed brighter than the rest. Rylan realized it was a clue. "This must be where your family is heading," he said. "We need to follow it." Luma bounced in excitement, her glow matching the intensity of the crystal. They began to make their way through the labyrinthine ruins, following the glowing path from the floating crystal. The corridors were narrow, filled with twisting passages and hidden doors. Strange mechanical devices lined the walls, moving gently as if powered by the energy in the crystals. Luma explored each device, producing light that activated mechanisms, opening doors or revealing hidden chambers. In one room, they discovered a pool of clear, glowing water. Luma approached it cautiously, her reflection shimmering in the light. When she touched the water, a series of images appeared, scenes from her childhood, her home, and her family traveling through the forest. Rylan watched, amazed by the clarity and intelligence of the projection. "This pool must store memories," he said. "It's like your people preserved their history in the energy of the crystals." Luma's tiny hands hovered over the water, tracing the images, and her laughter echoed softly through the chamber. As they continued, they encountered their first challenge. A series of doors blocked their path, each marked with symbols that seemed to correspond to different types of energy. Rylan studied the symbols, trying to understand the pattern. Luma touched each symbol with her light, and the doors responded, opening slowly one by one. Rylan realized that this was a test of intelligence and understanding, a way for the city to ensure that only those who were worthy could proceed. Luma's quick thinking and natural connection to the crystals allowed them to navigate the doors easily. Beyond the doors, they entered a vast hall filled with energy crystals arranged in a complex pattern. The crystals emitted beams of light that intersected and created a web of energy. Luma floated in the center, her tiny hands moving gracefully through the beams. Each movement caused the beams to shift, forming new patterns. Rylan observed carefully. "She's aligning the energy," he said. "This must be part of the city's power system." As Luma's light touched the final crystal, the entire hall lit up brilliantly, and a hidden passage revealed itself. Excited, they entered the new passage, which led to an open terrace overlooking a dense, glowing forest. The energy from the city extended into the forest, connecting with trees, rivers, and streams. Luma darted forward, her tiny form weaving through the beams of light, clearly delighted by the view. Rylan followed, his eyes scanning the horizon. In the distance, he saw movement, tiny, glowing figures moving along the path marked by the energy crystals. Luma's family! She ran ahead, her light pulsing faster, and Rylan sprinted after her. The reunion was joyful. Luma's family, small and glowing like her, welcomed her warmly. Their laughter and light created a dazzling display in the forest. Rylan watched, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. His mission of exploration had turned into something far more meaningful, a reunion, and a connection between species. After the reunion, Luma's family shared knowledge about the Crystal City. They explained that their civilization had once been widespread across the planet, using the crystals to store energy, preserve history, and communicate over long distances. Natural disasters had forced them to retreat into hidden settlements, leaving ruins like the one Rylan and Luma had discovered. Rylan was fascinated. "Your people are incredibly advanced," he said. "The way you use energy, your connection to the planet, it's unlike anything humanity has seen." Luma's parents nodded, their light pulsing in acknowledgement. The family invited Rylan to join them as they explored the city further. Together, they moved through corridors filled with knowledge, discovering libraries of energy crystals, chambers with preserved artifacts, and gardens where glowing plants grew in intricate patterns. Luma darted from one place to another, showing Rylan and her family the wonders she had found earlier. Rylan took careful notes, recording every detail. He realized that this knowledge could help humanity understand how to live in harmony with planets, using energy responsibly and preserving ecosystems. The lessons from Luma's people were valuable beyond measure. As the day progressed, they reached a central chamber, the heart of the city. A massive crystal tower rose from the center, pulsing with light and energy. Luma's family explained that this tower connected all the energy crystals on the planet, maintaining balance and harmony. Rylan approached the tower, feeling the warmth and power radiating from it. Luma floated beside him, her tiny hands touching the base. The tower responded, sending pulses of light through the city and into the surrounding forest. Rylan watched in awe as the energy flowed seamlessly, connecting every living thing on the planet. "This is incredible," he whispered. "Your civilization has achieved something humanity can only dream of, true harmony with your world." Luma's light pulsed brightly as if agreeing. Night fell, and the city glowed under the twin moons. Rylan and Luma's family gathered on a terrace, sharing stories and laughter. Luma's light danced in patterns that reflected her happiness, and Rylan felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that exploration was not just about discovering new worlds. It was about understanding, connection, and friendship. Before resting, Luma led Rylan to a smaller chamber filled with crystals that recorded messages. Each crystal contained memories, knowledge, or greetings from her people. Luma touched one, and an image of a tiny alien child playing in a meadow appeared. Rylan smiled. "These crystals preserve your culture," he said. "They're amazing. Luma nodded, her tiny form glowing softly. They want to share it with you, Rylan added, understanding that her people were extending trust and friendship across species. As he prepared to sleep, Rylan reflected on the day's events. They had faced challenges, discovered incredible knowledge, and witnessed the reunion of a family separated by circumstance. And yet the journey was not over. The city still held secrets, and the map showed other energy points and hidden areas to explore. Tomorrow he and Luma would continue, uncovering more of the Crystal City's mysteries and learning lessons that could change humanity's understanding of the universe. But tonight, under the glowing lights and twin moons, they rested, filled with hope and wonder. Luma's laughter echoed softly in the halls of the ruins, blending with the hum of the crystals. Rylan smiled, feeling privileged to be part of this story. The adventure was far from over, and the universe seemed to whisper possibilities of discovery, friendship, and the endless potential of life. The first light of dawn spilled over the Crystal City, turning every surface into a dazzling prism. Captain Rylan woke to find Luma already awake, her tiny glowing form hovering near the entrance of their chamber. She chirped excitedly, pointing toward the distant horizon. Today, they would journey beyond the city, following the crystal map, to a region labeled the Hidden Peaks. Rylan packed their gear carefully, including rations, climbing ropes, and portable tools. Luma fluttered around him, her tiny hands tracing the edges of the pack as if inspecting every detail. "Ready, Luma?" he asked. She responded with a glowing nod and a soft laugh, her excitement contagious. The path out of the city led them through sparkling forests and over rivers that glimmered with crystal light. Strange floating plants drifted above the water, their roots dangling like soft threads. Luma zipped ahead, her glow reflecting off the water, drawing the way like a living lantern. As they walked, Rylan noticed how connected Luma was to her. The morning light spilled over the hidden peaks, illuminating the crystals that lined the mountain ridges. Captain Rylan and Luma awoke on their small summit camp, the crisp air carrying hints of distant rivers and forests below. Today, their map led them into a new region marked as the Valley of Echoes. Rumors from Luma's family hinted that this valley held ancient secrets, information that could help them understand the planet and its energy system even better. Rylan packed their gear carefully. He glanced at Luma, whose tiny glow pulsed with excitement. "Ready for another adventure?" he asked. She responded with a joyful flicker and a soft musical trill. Together they began their descent. The climb down the hidden peaks was steep but manageable. Luma darted ahead, discovering small ledges and hidden pathways. Her ability to sense energy allowed them to avoid unstable rocks and treacherous slopes. Rylan followed, careful but impressed by her courage and agility. As they entered the valley, the atmosphere changed. Mist rolled along the ground, soft and sparkling, and the air vibrated with faint energy pulses. Strange rock formations rose from the ground, and crystal vines dangled from towering cliffs. The valley was alive in a way Rylan had never experienced. Every plant, rock, and river seemed connected by invisible threads of energy. Luma floated ahead, her tiny light scanning the area. She giggled and darted between the crystal vines, producing small sparks of energy that made the plants shimmer. Rylan followed, notebook in hand, recording each discovery. He realized that the Valley of Echoes was not just a place, it was a living archive, preserving information through the energy that flowed through every surface. Hours into their journey, they came across a large clearing filled with glowing pools of water. The water reflected the sky, but beneath the surface, faint images shimmered. Luma touched one of the pools and a holographic scene appeared. Tiny, glowing beings building structures, placing crystals, and creating intricate networks across the planet. "This must be the history of your civilization," Rylan whispered. "These pools, they store memories." Luma's light flared brightly, her tiny hands tracing the images as if she could feel the memories themselves. Suddenly, the valley echoed with a deep, resonating sound, a low hum that vibrated through the ground. Rylan instinctively held Luma close. The sound seemed to come from the cliffs themselves, where enormous crystals jutted from the rock walls. Each pulse carried faint images of past events. Luma's ancestors exploring the valley, discovering new energy points, and communicating with distant parts of the planet. "This valley is alive," Rylan said softly. "It's like the planet remembers everything that happens here." Luma produced a melodic trill, responding to the echoes, and the valley seemed to resonate in harmony with her light. They continued following the crystal map, which led them to the base of a massive cliff. The map indicated that the next energy crystal was somewhere on the cliff's face. Rylan examined the wall. It was steep, with sharp edges and loose rocks. "We'll need to climb carefully," he said. Luma hovered close to him, her glow steady and reassuring. The climb was challenging. Rylan used ropes and careful handholds, testing each step before moving. Luma, though tiny, seemed fearless. She used small ledges and crystal formations to ascend quickly, occasionally darting back to guide Rylan to the safest path. Halfway up, a small stone dislodged and tumbled downward. Rylan reacted quickly, catching Luma with his free hand. She giggled softly, producing a warm glow as if to say, "It's okay." When they reached a small plateau, they discovered a series of ancient symbols etched into the cliff face. Luma floated in front of them, her light pulsing as she traced the markings. The symbols glowed in response, projecting holographic images of energy flows, past explorers, and distant regions of the planet. Rylan realized that the cliff itself was a knowledge center, an archive of the planet's energy history. "Your civilization has left a record everywhere," he said. "It's incredible. They thought of everything." Luma's glow brightened and she produced a soft melodic trill that seemed to harmonize with the symbols. Above the plateau, a large energy crystal floated mid-air, pulsing with intense light. This was their destination. Luma zipped toward it, her tiny hands making contact. The crystal responded instantly, sending beams of energy throughout the valley. The pools of water shimmered, the cliffs resonated, and the valley seemed to come alive with light and sound. Rylan stepped closer. "This is amazing," he whispered. The energy flows from the crystal created a network that connected to the forest, rivers, and mountains around them. Luma's people had mastered a way to harmonize the entire planet, using crystals as conduits for energy, memory, and communication. As they rested near the crystal, a new challenge appeared. From the mist, large creatures emerged, winged beings, with shimmering scales that reflected the valley's light. They moved gracefully but cautiously, circling above. Rylan realized that these were guardians of the valley, protectors of the energy crystals. He crouched slightly, keeping Luma close. "Stay calm," he whispered. Luma's glow pulsed brightly, and she produced a soft musical tone. The creatures reacted immediately, pausing in mid-air. Their glowing eyes studied her curiously. One descended slowly, hovering near her light. Luma extended her tiny hand, producing a gentle pulse. The creature mirrored her movement, and after a moment it bowed slightly before retreating with the others. "That was incredible," Rylan said. "You really can communicate with everything here." Luma giggled, her glow flickering happily. Night fell over the Valley of Echoes, and Rylan and Luma camped near the floating crystal. The valley shimmered under the twin moons, reflecting the light of hundreds of crystals scattered across the cliffs and pools. Luma produced a gentle glow, illuminating their surroundings as they rested. Rylan thought about the lessons of the day. The planet was alive, connected in ways humans could barely imagine. Energy was not just power. It was memory, communication, and life itself. And Luma, small and seemingly fragile, was a living conduit, capable of harmonizing with the planet in ways he could not. Before sleeping, Rylan explored the valley one last time. He discovered tiny pathways between the pools, hidden ledges, and smaller energy points. Every discovery added to his understanding, but he realized the planet still held many secrets. Luma's people had created a system that was brilliant, complex, and beautiful. Humanity could learn much from it if they approached it with respect. As he drifted off to sleep, Rylan felt a deep sense of connection to the planet, to Luma, and to the incredible intelligence that life could achieve. Tomorrow they would continue their journey, following the map to even more hidden energy points, uncovering mysteries and strengthening their bond with Luma's people. The valley echoed softly with the hum of crystals and the soft musical tones from Luma. The stars above twinkled like scattered gems reflecting off the pools and crystals, promising that the adventure was far from over. And somewhere in the distance, faint lights flickered indicating new paths, new discoveries, and endless possibilities. The Valley of Echoes glimmered under the twin moons as Captain Rylan and Luma prepared for the final leg of their journey. The crystal map showed one last energy point, a location hidden deep within the mountains labeled as the heart of the planet. According to Luma's family, this was where the planet's energy originated and where all the crystals across the K land converged. Reaching it could unlock knowledge beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Rylan checked their gear, ensuring their supplies were ready. Luma hovered nearby, her tiny glow bright and steady. "Ready?" he asked. She responded with a joyful trill, her excitement clear. Together they set off toward the mountains. The path to the heart of the planet was difficult. The mountains grew steeper, jagged rocks creating obstacles, and the air grew thinner with each step. Luma's small size gave her an advantage, and she zipped ahead, discovering safer routes for Rylan to follow. Streams of glowing water trickled along the cliffs, reflecting the light from the crystals embedded in the rocks. As they climbed, the planet's energy seemed stronger. The crystals along their path pulsed more intensely, resonating with Luma's light. Rylan could feel it too, a warm vibration that moved through his body, giving him strength and focus. After several hours, they reached a hidden plateau. The crystal map indicated that the entrance to the heart of the planet was nearby. Before them stood a massive crystalline structure, half hidden by mist and jagged rocks. The structure was unlike anything Rylan had ever seen. Towers, arches, and bridges made entirely of glowing crystal pulsing with energy. "This must be it," Rylan whispered. Luma floated ahead, touching the structure with her tiny hands. The crystals responded instantly, illuminating the hidden paths and revealing an entrance at the base of the tallest tower. They entered cautiously. Inside, the air hummed with energy. The walls glowed softly, covered in intricate patterns and symbols that seemed to shift and move. Luma's light pulsed as she traced the symbols, and the patterns responded, revealing a path deeper into the structure. Rylan followed closely, marveling at the architecture. The entire place seemed alive, reacting to their presence. Pools of glowing water lined the corridors, reflecting images of Luma's ancestors as they maintained the planet's energy network. It was a living history, a record of civilization.